Hey there. So you're probably saying to yourself, this is great. We made it look good. We could see the numbers. However, let's add some color. All right, we'll jazz it up a bit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on this cell. Make sure you're under the home button at the top. And we're going to click on the fill bucket, which is this little paint bucket here. And we're going to pick a color. So I think they want us to pick this one, which is the sixth one. All right. So we grab that. Then we're going to right click and go to Format Cells, and it's going to bring up this box. We're going to hit Fill, and you'll see that color that we picked is selected. We're going to go to Pattern Style, and we're going to pick the first row, sixth column from the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This guy right here. So it's going to make it all dotted like that, right? It's going to add that 6.25. Next, we're going to go to Borders, and we're going to press Thick Bottom Border. What we can do is we can grab this guy and click on the bottom to create the thick bottom border. And I'll show you another place where you can do that. We can also click here and click on this guy and pick where it says thick bottom border. They both do the same thing. Just depends where you are. Okay? So basically now we've made that dotted background, we've colored the cell, and we added that thick bottom line. Right? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to click on A3 to H3. So we'll go to A3, H3, that's our headers over here. And we're going to change the font color, and we're going to pick blue accent color 1. Dark teal, blue accent 1. Perfect. Alright, and then we're going to go J1 to K1. So J1 to K1, that's these guys right here. And we're going to go Cell Styles, and we're going to pick Neutral Cell Style. So that's this one over here. Okay, so in addition to actually changing the font like you have up on top over here, we're also able to apply these different styles like normal, bad, good, neutral, calculation, output, warning text, or one of these. Now what these do is they just let you specify on your sheet what is the cell supposed to do. So for example, the input cell, people know, oh, if I see one like that, I should type numbers into it. Whereas this cell, I can't do anything because it's a calculation cell. So it just helps people when they see it that they visually know what's going on with the cell. Okay, so if you got up to here, fantastic, press save. And let's move on to something else a little different. Okay, so we're going to do conditional formatting, which is also about colors. Before we do that though, let's see the yellow box at the bottom of page 63. Okay, we also have this thing, Theme Galleries. We can go to Page Layout and press Themes, and we have all these different themes. If you use Microsoft Word, you'll be familiar with how you could change the template. This is a similar idea. So it will change the font, change the color, do it all at one time, right? Now if I don't change anything, we get back to how it is here. So sometimes if you're looking for a lot of different options, you could do that, but keep in mind that especially if you're printing an Excel sheet, you want to make sure it's really readable, right? All right, so now we're going to do something a little different. It's called conditional formatting. So instead of formatting the cell and changing the color, what we're going to do is we're going to tell Excel only format the cell if it meets a particular criteria. If not, then don't do anything. So we're going to on page 64, and we're going to start right at the top at cell 1. So I'm going to click on cell H4 all the way down to H30. So I grabbed all of my numbers. And we're going to click on conditional formatting, and we're going to go to data bars, and we're going to pick the light blue data bar. So that's this one. Now you'll notice that when we select this bar, it looks at all the numbers, and the bigger the number is, the bigger the bar is. So 8,200 is pretty big, that's why it has a huge bar. In fact, it's the biggest number. Now 2,000 is about a quarter of the size, that's why it has a quarter of the size of the bar, right? $11 is so small, it doesn't even show up, right? It's like a super tiny bar. $52 is like a really, really tiny one. So the data bars work by comparing the numbers, looking for the biggest one, and creating a bar like that. Next, let's go to F4 to F30. So let's go to F4 to F30. And we're going to click on the big conditional formatting button at the top. And we're going to go to where it says Highlight Cell Rules. And now you can choose, do you want to highlight numbers that are bigger than a number, less than a number? And we're going to pick the one called Between. But we have other options too, like equals or whatever. We're going to pick Between. Now, it's going to say format cells that are between 2,000 and 4,000. So only numbers that are between 2,000 and 4,000. We're going to leave it with light red fill with dark text, and we'll press OK. Okay, so only these numbers that lit up are between 2,000 and 4,000. Now, let's go to E7. E7. And we're going to type in 3. Now, when we changed E7 to 3, it became a number between 2 and 4,000, so it turned red, right? Now, the conditional formatting sits behind these numbers, and it's always checking how big that number is. Is that number between our criteria, or how big it is on this side, right? And that's what will automatically determine which we use. Now, we could see that if we click on conditional formatting, down at the bottom where it says Manage Rules. Now, right now it's not showing anything because I didn't select anything first, and what I could do is change this to this worksheet. And I'll see both of the rules that we picked. Between F4 and F30, it's turning everything red if it's between 2 and 4,000, and I have data bars. Now, I could change these by just clicking on it and pressing where it says Edit Rule, and I could change the colors, I could change the type, etc. I could do the same thing over here by pressing Edit, and I could change the values of the 2,000 to 4,000. I could change it or even format the color that it shows up at as maybe I want a different color text, and then it will make it look like this, right? So it just depends what I want to do, but I can get to that by conditional formatting, Manage Rules. We'll just take a couple looks at some other conditional formatting. Highlight cell rules, I could say highlight cells that are bigger than a certain number or less than a certain number. If they're between two numbers or they're equal to a number. So anytime that something's exactly a 5, change it to be red. I could highlight cells that contain a particular kind of text or a date or duplicate values. So for example, let's say we were running a race and we were giving out numbers and I typed them into our spreadsheet, but if for some reason 2 people had the same number, it would turn red and tell me that's a problem. Same thing if I'm typing in checks, I'm reconciling checks and I have 2 checks with the same number. That shouldn't be possible, so it alerts me by changing it, color. I can also do percentage, the top and the bottom, the averages. We talked about data bars. I can apply color scales, which is the same idea. It will make either blue on the top or red on the bottom, depending. I could apply icon sets. For the numbers that are on the top will be green, or the numbers on the bottom will be red, or one of these other patterns. And I can also create my own rules, just going step by step and trying to figure out how to format those rules. Okay, so that's conditional formatting, and we can apply that behind the sheet. It's really useful when we're trying to figure out things. We don't necessarily see all the numbers because there's so many of them. I'll do one more example. Let's say we grab all these numbers, and anything less than a 5 is really bad, right? So what we'll do is we'll go conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, less than, and I'm going to put in less than 5, right? So here, anything that's less than a 5 will highlight, anything above a 5 will not. Or I could change it the other way around. I can make this green, and now maybe this means something else, and anything that's under a 5 is great, and everything over a 5 is bad, right? You can also apply multiple layers of these on top of each other, so I could turn some numbers green, some numbers red, depending on which numbers I pick, right? So it really just depends on how you're applying conditional formatting and how you use it. I'll show you one more example. We can go over here and apply one of those icon sets, and you'll see that depending on what the number is, we can get these indicators. So for example, if the number, it has to be really big to be good, then automatically all the big numbers would have check marks next to them, and all the low numbers would be those red X's. And once we apply this, we could then go into manage rules and change after what number would it trigger, what number is in the middle, and so on, right? Here we happen to have a lot of really small numbers and a lot of really big numbers, which is why we're getting either one or the other without the middle point selected. So I hope that gives you some ideas about formatting and conditional formatting. The best way to learn is play around with it, see what you think, and we're going to go from there. Next up, we're going to talk about moving and renaming worksheets.